Well, today the House is set to begin debate on the long-stalled $70 billion ICE and Border Patrol funding package. The Senate passed it last week following an 18-hour vote-a-rama featuring dozens of amendment votes, multiple efforts to eliminate the Department of Justice's anti-weaponization fund, which failed. House Republicans reportedly are eager to pass the package quickly as they shift their focus to a third reconciliation bill, a follow-up to last summer's One Big Beautiful Bill. I want to bring in South Carolina Congressman Russell Fry. Congressman, I want to get your thoughts on this. You know, in particular, first off, where do you stand as now everything is coming back to the House? There's several pieces of legislation that are going to be in front of you. What is most important that you want to make sure that we tell our viewers today?
Well, I think the Homeland Security bill, let's get that done. We need to send that to the president's desk and be done with this political circus that has gone on for far too long. Look, our brave men and women that secure our border, that protect our country, they don't deserve to be demonized to the level that they have been. So I'm glad that Congress is finally stepping up. I think it's taken far too long, but we're going to go get the job done and send this bill to the president's desk.
Do you think that there's going to be pushback from any of your colleagues about the anti-weaponization fund? I mean, look, let's state the obvious here. It's a year for midterms. Do you think that there's going to be any of you or your colleagues that are going to say that you don't want the anti-weaponization fund to be part of this?
Well, I mean, maybe, but if you look at the debate within the Senate, obviously the administration has come out, they've pulled that back, they've kind of dialed that back. And so I think any further pursuits are just political kabuki theater. At this point, we need to go get this job done. The mission is critical. We were elected to secure the border and to beef up these operations to make sure that we're protecting our law enforcement and protecting our country. So we had this opportunity this week. Let's not get mired in the distractions and the shiny objects. The administration has said that they, are not intending to pursue this. We take them at their word, or at least I do. Let's go get the job done and send this bill to the president's desk.
Yeah, so you're referring to Todd Blanche, who last week said that they were not going to pursue it. So you still think that is the case, and that's where we stand right now?
I do. I think that's the case. I think this is exactly what it is. Let's go fund our Border Patrol and our ICE agents. Okay, let's move on to FISA then, because the Senate blocked an extension of Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. That was a 47-52 procedural vote ahead of the program, which expires this week. But a major point of contention has come up with President Trump's appointment of Federal Housing Director Bill Pulte as acting Director of National Intelligence. The Senate Democrats urged GOP leaders to pressure the president into withdrawing this choice. They threatened to tank reauthorizing FISA if the White House refuses. Democrats are saying that Pulte lacks national security experience. President Trump says his work leading Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is going to overlap with these new responsibilities, Congressman. What do you make of all of the pushback on Bill Pulte? Well, again, I find it to be kind of a distraction from the main mission, right? If the focus is FISA, whether it's reform aspects of FISA that make Americans more secure in their constitutional liberties, whether it's a clean extension as maybe the president wants or some combination of the two, I think we need to focus on the actual policies themselves. Some of this seems to be a convenient distraction, and I think that's at least my concern is like this subject invites a robust debate. Let's go have it. But let's keep the main thing, ultimately we'll see what the Senate does. The House is having these same conversations, but this extension that we passed, I guess, a couple weeks ago expires on June 12th. And so for me, I'm interested in what is new. Is it the same arguments, or is it something new that has come forward on a way to navigate this to make sure that you're bringing in the broader conference together, both people who are civil liberty minded and those who are more intelligence-minded Republicans, bring them to the table, figure out what are the pressure points. Let's go get this done. And so we'll see what the Senate does. Obviously, they've had some roadblocks themselves. Well,
yeah, certainly to have 7 Republicans go against it. But, Senator Rand Paul was on with Marie, and he was telling her last week that, look, he doesn't want to renew 702 unless there's protections put in place to where Americans cannot be spied upon. And that is a critical piece of this in this debate right now. Where do you stand on that?
Look, I think it's important to protect that. I've long argued for reforms, for protective measures. Congress did this, I think, a great job on several fronts in the last Congress, kind of restructuring and reforming the way that this process works. But I still think there's room to go, and there's additional protections that can be had. Look, the Fourth Amendment is not a suggestion; it should be a requirement, even for even in national security concerns. There are ways that you can do this. That I think appease both sides to make sure that this works fundamentally well, and make sure that Americans aren't spied upon for frivolous reasons. We've seen the abuse of FISA happen time and time again, people spying on their neighbors and looking at ex-girlfriends and all the like. That is not what this was for. If this is for national security, it should be for that. But there are ways to do this that strike the right balance and protect the Fourth Amendment for every American.
Yeah, I also want to ask you about something that's going to be coming up in front of your committee, Congressman. The House Judiciary Committee is set to hold this hearing. It's going to be Wednesday. It examines the role that the Southern Poverty Law Center has played in shaping civil rights policy in recent years. This is expected to be a very contentious hearing. There's been a lot of very serious allegations made against the Southern Poverty Law Center, in particular their role in putting their operatives and paying them and putting them into these extremist groups. What do you want to hear on Wednesday?
Well, I want to hear the truth. I mean, basically what I'm seeing right now is that the Southern Poverty Law Center was funding the very things that they were fighting against. And this wasn't just like paying an informant to give them information. This seemed to be like reimbursement of expenses for Nazi rallies and cross burnings. That is absolutely abhorrent. And look, there are federal statutes that protect people, who gave to the Southern Poverty Law Center under the idea that they were fighting these very things. It turns out that $4.1 million was going to pay them. And it seemed to be kind of a pay for play thing, that you invest a little bit of this money, you create an apparatus that gives incentive for donors to come to the table, and they made more money than they've ever. Their foundation is massive, hundreds of millions of dollars in the foundation. So they've invested a little bit of this money in these informants and reimbursement of these expenses. But the long-term gain was that they grew their influence in Washington, D.C. with the Biden administration, and they raked in tens of millions of dollars hiding behind shell companies and fake bank accounts. So I'm curious to see what the CEO, how he's going to defend this, because I really think it's indefensible. Even progressives have said that they've been hoarding cash, along with the other allegations. It's going to be a hearing to watch. Congressman Russell Fry, thank you for being here. Thanks, Cheryl.